Hey, how's it going everyone? Thanks for watching another video. So this is going to be a little bit more of a unique video from me. I'm not going to be doing any editing or voiceover or scripting or anything. It's just like how I would talk to you if you were curious about being vegan and you approached me in an email or on the street and asked me some questions. This is how I would respond. Because basically one of the hard things about making videos is guessing what you know and what you don't know. And sometimes I make videos presuming you know certain things, and I sometimes forget that this is still new information for a lot of people. So this is really a video to non-vegans or people who are curious about being vegan, or even people who are really against going vegan and are just coming on this video to start an argument or a debate, which is fine. So throughout this video, if you have any questions or you want to start a debate or something, just comment down below and I'll do my best to answer them as best as I can. But first of all, when someone asks me, how do I go vegan, or I want to be vegan, but I'm worried about this and that, first things first, I say, like, put all your fears and your doubts away about like protein and things like that, and just try being vegan for a week. See how it goes. You don't need any permission to be vegan. You don't need an initiation ritual or something crazy like that. You can literally be vegan right now. The world will not collapse on you if instead of eating a meat pizza, you have a vegan pizza with vegan salami and vegan cheese or vegan ice cream. The world's not going to collapse on you. And in fact, if we continue down the other way of continuing with animal agriculture, we are going to see, I don't know about the end of the world, but we're certainly going to see a drastically different world being shaped by the destructive practices of animal agriculture. So first of all, just let that sink in. You can be vegan right now. Just simply try it for the next month, or try it for the next 3, 5, 6, 7 days and see how it goes. And as you're doing that, you can do some research. But the first thing that I often hear quite a lot is to do with nutrition and to do with protein and things like that. So I thought I'd just cover it quickly. So number one, protein. All protein comes from plant sources. Plants are the only ones that can really break down nitrogen that's in the atmosphere, in the air, and in the soil and turn that into amino acids. They break it down and turn it into amino acids, and then when we consume that, or when animals consume it, it turns into the protein in their bodies. So whenever we eat cows, pigs, chickens, or fish, or breast milk from cows, or ovulation chicken periods from chickens, or eggs, all the nutrition that is in them and in their excretions have come about because they've eaten the plant foods originally. So that's the original source of their nutrition. And so it's almost voodoo to think that when we eat a chicken, we'll get the power of the chicken or the strength of a cow. It just doesn't work out that way. We need to eat what those animals are eating, which is the plant foods, and it's healthier for us. Because what happens is when we eat those animal products, we get high concentrations of saturated fat and cholesterol, carcinogenic animal proteins, bacteria. There's something called carnitine, which is in meat, and once it's broken down by our bodies, by the bacteria in our gut, it turns into something called trimethylamine, and then once that goes into the liver, and then it turns into something called trimethylamine oxide, and then that literally goes through your arteries and pushes cholesterol into the artery walls, causing chronic inflammation and atherosclerosis and heart disease, and all these years and years of clogged up arteries that eating all these animal flesh foods will build up to stroke and Alzheimer's and things like diabetes, and all these little capillaries around your body and around the brain get clogged up, and they're not receiving the oxygen and the nutrition they require, and it leads to things like strokes and Alzheimer's. So really, we should be stepping away from animal foods and towards a vegan plant-based diet if we want to be healthy. And a lot of people are like, oh, I don't know if I can be healthy on a vegan diet. The truth is, you're going to be healthier on a vegan plant-based whole food diet than you are on a dead animal flesh food diet. Number two is, I often hear things from people saying that, we're carnivores or we're omnivores, we've got canines, therefore that means we can eat animals. And I'm just going to break that down quickly. Human physiology points towards an animal that is predominantly herbivorous or frugivorous. And there's an article that I'm going to attach in this video that goes to a PubMed website, and it will show you the anatomical features of human beings versus other animals in the wild, and shows like what kind of diet we're more suited to. And just an example, we have amylase in our saliva, which breaks down carbohydrates. Carbohydrates pretty much only come from plant foods. Our tongue seeks, sugar predominantly as a fuel source, whereas cats and other carnivores have amino acid sensing taste buds, which goes after protein. So our diet is built up predominantly of carbohydrates, or it should be. And then we have a look at our digestive tract. It's super long, and it's the best for breaking down all those plant matter and squeezing all the nutrients out of it. That's not too gross to think about. Whereas carnivorous animals have a short digestive tract, and it has a smooth inner surface, inner wall of the intestines, and this is so that the meat that they're eating can just pass in and out without it getting caught up and fermenting, which is what happens to human beings, and then it leads on to things like colorectal cancer or colon cancer. from meat that has been fermenting in the gut and doing all kinds of nasty things. And then we have a look at other animals and the way they sweat and the way they lap up water. So carnivores lap up water, so do omnivores, whereas frugivores tend to drink or sip water. And you know, we don't have sharp claws. You know, these fingers are great for like peeling fruit, but it's not great at ripping the flesh of a cow or an antelope or something. And there's all other kinds of things that you can look at physiologically that shows that we are more suited to be eating plant-based foods. As well as our teeth, we can do this, move our jaw from side to side, and only plant-based eaters can do that. And we have a look at the animals with the largest canines in nature. It doesn't mean that they're carnivores. Hippos have the largest carnivores, and baboons and gorillas have canines, but these are all herbivorous animals. So that's just hopefully broken that down for you. Just because we have these tiny little canines that can pretty much only rip into an apple doesn't mean that we should be eating other animals. And on the topic of that, you know, we have species-specific diets which we've evolved for millions of years to, you know, live off of, and it works in perfect, you know, balance in the ecosystem. And just because a lion eats meat doesn't mean that humans should eat meat, any more than just because humans eat, you know, bananas doesn't mean blue whales should start eating bananas. It just doesn't work that way. We have species-specific diets, and the species-specific diet of humans is a high-carbohydrate, plant-based diet. The third thing that I hear quite often is that if we kill animals humanely, then that means it's okay. Since, you know, we're just trying to avoid suffering, because we're human beings, we try to be humane, and therefore if it's humane slaughter, then that means everything's okay and everything's fine. For me, at least, if we can just simply recognize that animals suffer and they feel pain, they have a capacity to experience these emotions and these feelings, and to recognize that there's nothing really particularly special about Homo sapiens when it comes down to feeling pain or anything. So really, it doesn't come down to the capacity in which you can suffer. As you know, as a human being, you have a highly developed brain and nervous system, and we can think in certain ways, and we can attach meaning and words to certain experiences. That has no you know, basis in justifying abuse to other animals. In fact, I would say they suffer more because they can't rationalize things. So humans might be scared of the dark, and they can say, no, everything's fine. It's just darkness. It's not, doesn't mean anything. Whereas with other animals, I'm not saying they're scared of the dark, but if someone's coming at them with a knife or they're seeing slaughtering of their family in front of them, they can't necessarily, from what I know, rationalize that. And so they're it's very visceral emotions that they're feeling. And again, it comes down to the relativity of their emotions. So let's say a small mouse can feel this much pain as a maximum, and say elephants can feel this much pain as a maximum. It's still relative to the individual experiences of those animals. And on the topic of humane slaughter, I would say it's probably worse because the animal has a beautiful, perfect life and you've ripped that away from them so you could have bacon. And I'm not saying that means it's better than factory farming, because even with factory farming, these pigs and cows and chickens reach levels of depression that humans have never reached before, because when humans reach a certain level of depression and sadness and, you know, suffering, they'll end up just trying to kill themselves. Whereas pigs, who have the intelligence of, say, a 5-year-old, who are in these cages for many years with no ability to move or walk around or see their babies grow up, they experience deep levels of depression that human beings have never experienced, and they're unable to end their own lives. So both are equally as wrong. So I don't see anything different between trying to justify killing a pig humanely for their meat than I do see slaughtering a human being humanely for their meat. Both suffer. So it'd be like trying to treat your mother really nicely for 20 years and feeding her organic food, and then one night when she's not looking, from behind, shoot her in the back of the head and eat her meat. You know, if the police come up and say, hey, what did you do? Like, you know, we're arresting you, you know, you just killed someone. You're gonna go, no, I just done it humanely. It's not gonna have, you know, any basis in them arresting you or not. They're not gonna say, oh, you did it humanely. It's still killing. Killing is killing, it's exploitation, and there's no justification for it, especially when we don't need to be doing it. The next thing that I want to go into is, a lot of people say that, okay, well, once the world becomes vegan, what are we going to do with all these animals in the farms? You know, if we let them go free, they're just going to, you know, overpopulate the world and go crazy, and they're going to be, the world's going to be run by, you know, cows and pigs and chickens. So to break that down, you know, pigs, cows and chickens are already like overtaking the world, and the reason why is because we've artificially inseminated billions upon billions of them into existence. I mean, just imagine, in the US alone, they slaughter 1 million chickens an hour. Now, chickens don't reproduce at such a rapid rate, so we are literally breeding them and making sure that they supply for next year and next year and next year. And about 35 to 45% of the Earth's land is being used for animal agriculture. 91% of the deforestation in the Amazon rainforest is being cut down to grow the food and have the roaming grazing area for cattle. And we have huge areas of the coast where this toxic runoff from these farms are going into the ocean, causing toxic dead zones. The fishing industry has wiped out pretty much 90% of all large fish. You know, and you just have repeated insemination or rape of these animals to even have more and more animals every year. So they're already overtaking the planet, right? And pretty much you can see dead animals everywhere you go in the supermarkets, already everywhere in the world because of a meat-eating society, because of animal agriculture. So if we move away from that and go towards a vegan diet, there'll be no demand to be keeping on like with breeding these animals. And so if we do move towards a vegan majority, we'll see a transition out of that, and there'll be fewer and fewer animals that need to be bred for that purpose. The deforestation of the rainforest and, you know, destruction of the ocean environment will come to a halt or slow down dramatically, enabling those habitats to come back to life, to enable there to be habitat for these animals to live in their natural populations. And when it comes down to, for example, deer that have been overpopulated in certain areas of the world, like in Canada or in Scotland, the reason why those animals are high in population now is because we have removed the apex predators from those environments, like the wolves and the bears, because human beings have gone in there and shot them under the same moral justifications that is for killing pigs, cows and chickens, that, you know, we get to kill it, it's a circle of life or whatever. It's not the circle of life, it's the circle of suffering and death. There's no need for that to happen. And it's not fair because human beings have knives and all this technology and all these slaughterhouses and all these processing plants. That's not by any means part of the, you know, natural cycle of life. It's nothing religious. When people say God gave animals here for us to eat, there's nothing godly about a slaughterhouse worker. There just isn't. So hopefully that's kind of broken that down. We'll transition away. There'll be less demand for that, the animals to be bred constantly, and we can then stop destroying the environment of other animals, and we can allow them to come back, and there'll be more of a balance. So that'll be that. And on a last note, you know, human beings are overtaking the planet right now, and we're destroying it. And if animals were brought back to a high population, they're not going to be destroying it. So really the focus should be back on human beings and the way we are growing out of control and overtaking the planet and destroying it. So that's the final thing on that. Now, I could go into so much depth about other things, about the corrupt pharmaceutical industry taking money from the meat industry and the health organizations getting money from these meat industries and these pharmaceutical industries to do product placements in children's TV shows and books to get them to be hooked on eggs and dairy from a young age. I haven't talked about casomorphine or why cheese is addictive. You know, I haven't talked about so many things. I haven't even talked about how much money can be saved if people went on a plant-based vegan diet. We'd see less incidences of cancer, diabetes, and heart disease, which is the leading killers of the world. And then all the money that goes into that could then be moved around and then put into more eco-friendly energy production. It could be put into community projects. It could be put into restoring environments back. It could be put into hiring ex-farmers who are paid to cut down the rainforest and to kill animals, to simply pay them to, you know, look after animals and to, you know, plant trees. You know, we could be doing all kinds of amazing things with the amount of money that goes into the current system of death and destruction. So really, that is just a glimpse of what I've just gone into, just the 5 or 6 things I've just gone into. And if you do have any more questions, comment down below, and just remember, you can try being vegan right now without even considering all these other greater positive impacts of what it will be. Just try being vegan right now, see how it goes for a week or 2 weeks. The world will not end for you, and in reality, the world will be more closely to be destroyed if we continue with animal agriculture. And if you want more information on that, I recommend you watch Cowspiracy, which is a documentary on Netflix. You can watch it there for free. And as for now, thanks for watching this video. Comment down below, give it a thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll speak to you guys in the next video. Speak to you soon. Just as a quick update at the end of this video, if you hadn't already realized, I've just started a podcast literally 2 days ago. I've only put 1 podcast up at the moment, but you can go and follow me on SoundCloud, where I'll be doing adventure and vegan and environment related podcasts. And as well as that, if you'd like to support the mission to raise awareness of this, you can support me on Patreon, and all the links will be down below. But anyway, thanks for watching this video. This is the end of this video. Sorry about the extra thing. Right, see you later. Bye bye bye.